Morning, guys. Cody, Lonestardiggin, back here on where we cleared under all the oaks. So here's that big brush pile. They had decided to go ahead and burn it instead of covering it up. So they got all this burnt. They actually had the local fire department come out and kind of watch it, make sure it didn't get out of control. So now we got a hole to cover up. So I'm gonna come in here and push these stumps down in the bottom. They got some metal over there, and then we'll start pushing all this caliche back in the hole. This is a pretty hard stuff once it rains on and sets up. We're gonna cover this sucker up, so y'all stay tuned, guys. I'll set y'all up on the dozer. wanted to make a little video about how to operate a dozer. So, you know, there's always tips and tricks that people can do to run a dozer more efficiently. And of course, everybody that's subscribed to my channel or been watching me a while, they know that my left arm is paralyzed from a four-wheeler accident. So, you know, what works for me probably won't work for other people. There's so many different ways to run a dozer, and depending on the age of the dozer, how it works, if each final drive of each track has its own independent motor, hydraulic motor, or kind of like mine, you know, is gear driven, and I have a pedal steer, or I can speed one track up and one track down, or vice versa. So there's so many different ways to push dirt, you know, with a dozer. For me, what works best for me, I like to push dirt straight. You know, instead of coming here and getting a bite with one corner of my blade, I would rather take the whole pass where my dozer will push. If you come over here and push on this corner, your left, my right, sitting in the dozer, it's gonna pull you towards that material no matter what. So I would either have to compensate by hitting my brake and turning myself, or I speed that side track up. So I'll kind of show y'all what I'm talking about. And like I said, what works for me, what works best for me, may not work best, you know, for everybody else. So I'm just going to push straight. So if you push straight, I'm not biting into that hill. I'm not biting in. I'm just going straight down. If you do that, your dozer will pretty much track straight. It's not trying to pull me one way. It's not trying to pull me into the material. Because I'm pushing even, I'm not having to move anything, just give it gas. So that's the way that I like to push material. Now there's another way, you know, to push material. So once I got all this done and I pushed straight, I would scoot over a whole blade width and make me a pass that way. That way I'm always pushing straight. But the other way you can do that, you can see here, my material's all on the right side. So if I put my blade over there where the material is, just the tip of my blade, just start pulling that material back. So there's a couple things you can do. You can turn your blade, angle it if you've got an angle blade. I can angle it, kind of counter steer, go in there and just slowly, little by little, cut that out. If you get too much material, like I am, watch what it starts pulling it wants to naturally pull my dozer into the pile. I'm not touching nothing. It's pulling me into the pile. So what you have to do is either I have to push this brake or I have to speed my right track up. So I'm going to speed my right track up. So one's in low, one's in high. So now this one's going to be spinning high, and that one's going to be spinning low. See how it'll bring me out of it? See, now I got it straightened back up. Now I can kick it back in turtle mode on both tracks. But if you bite too much, it starts pulling you that way. You'll have to either speed one track up or turn myself by stopping that track and letting that track go. So for me, I would rather take the whole width of the blade wide. I would rather take the whole blade width wide and just push evenly. Now one little tip or trick you can do, if it's pulling you one way or the other, you can angle that blade whichever way you want it to drag more. So let's say it's pulling you to the right, I'm going to angle it to my left. I can steer it by just angling my blade because I'm taking pressure off my blade. Say for me, I finished over here and I want to start over here. I'll get over here and get a blade width wide. It takes a minute because it's so steep. Now that I got that cut out, blade width wide, I can go in there and straight push. Try to keep both tracks spinning. When one track stops spinning, say I'm pushing here, both tracks are pulling. See, now I got one track spinning, this one's not, and I'm not moving. But when I take that pressure off that track and let it spin, it'll let me push through. So if I try to turn right now, I'm taking the, power from one track. Now I'm just spinning one track. If I let it go, I can push on through. So you always want to try to avoid taking the power away from one track. Now, newer dozers, where they're independently ran, you can do that. You can do that a little easier. But I would rather just straight push. I'm not touching nothing. Both tracks are pushing. See now, both tracks are spinning, and I'm not going anywhere. different people, they would rather just take the edge of the blade. They would rather take the edge of the blade and just notch into the side of that wall. See what happens when you get too much of a bite, it pulls you into the wall. And then most people want to change, you know, take their power away from one track, and that's when you lose power. So now it's trying to pull me into that bank. Well, it looks like this. But the whole point is to try to leave, you know, both tracks pushing. You take power away from one track, and just one track spinning, you're only pushing half the amount. So see, I'm pushing here. If I try to right now turn, I'm not going anywhere. If I let both tracks push, now I'm pushing. If I try to see, I'm trying to turn, and I'm not going anywhere. But I let both tracks push. Push on through. A lot of times if you're pushing and you want to go one way or the other, a lot of times you can just angle your blade. Say I want to go to my right, I can angle my blade. It's going to pull me. It's going to pull me to the right. This side has less friction. This side has more friction. So it's going to pull me to the right. Even though I didn't take any power away from either track, I was still able to guide myself by just using my blade. There's tips and tricks out there that other people know that I don't even know. See, when I'm working at dozer, and because I only have the one hand, it's easier for me to push and turn like this versus reaching over here and changing my track speed. I don't have a left hand to be changing my track speed. My right hand's normally over here on my blade control. So having the pedal steer really helps me if I need to turn. But like I said, I can control which way I go by not stopping my track. I can do it by my joystick for my blade. And that way, it doesn't take power away from one track or the other. So Like here, I'm gonna push, but I want to go to the right. So I can dig that right track in. This one's higher. It's gonna gradually pull me that direction. Pulling me. Yeah, nothing here and dragging, so it just automatically is pulling me to the right. It's really whatever fits you the best. I prefer like to just push straight. You know, if you start spinning the track, you're getting too much material and you're spinning track, just bump that blade up. Just bump it up, bump it up. I'm just spinning my track. I'm not going anywhere. Just lift your blade up a little bit. And like I said, newer dozers may work a little bit different because they have independent hydraulic motors. So those style of dozers work a little bit different. But let me know, y'all let me know in the comments y'all's tips and tricks. You know, some of y'all dozer operators out there that have been doing this forever, y'all leave in the comments which way y'all like to push. Y'all like to push straight on, or do you like to just ease into the pile with the corner of your blade? I'm sure there's more tricks out there than I even know about. So let me know in the comments what y'all think. Leave it in the comments which way y'all like to push, what works best for y'all. I'm curious to know is there any other kind of tricks or tips that some of y'all veteran operators know that younger operators don't. So if y'all have any questions, let me know. I'll try to answer them. Like I said, I'm no professional operator by any means, but that's just some of the tips and tricks that I've learned over the years, and I'm sure there's a lot more different types of tricks and little things, but y'all let me know in the comments what y'all think, guys.
Ready.
my camera died on you. Now I'm gonna put this topsoil on. Alright guys, got all that covered up, topsoil put back on it. Turned out really good. Usually when you have a hole, you usually got a bunch of dirt left, bleachy left, whatever. But this turned out really good. You know, I heard something the other day that I've never heard before. An old lady told me, her husband said that you never want to cover up a ditch if the moon is not right. Which I didn't know what that meant by. If the moon was right, the ditch would hold all the dirt. But if the moon wasn't right, it would not hold all that material and you would have a lot left over. I'm not sure what that means, so some of y'all old timers out there, y'all let me know if y'all have ever heard that. And is there any truth to that? So whatever that means, I guess the moon's right because it was perfect. But anyways guys, I'm gonna move on to the next section, so y'all stay tuned. I'll bring y'all back in a minute. This Texas ground, that's why I was saying the other day, if you're gonna get a dozer, get rippers on it. I know here in Texas, it's a must. Maybe states up north where y'all get more rain, there's no need for it, but this is like concrete. You can't even make a dent in it. It's so hard. It's like concrete. So always get a ripper if y'all got hard ground like it is here. Alright guys, I got that hole dug. I think it's enough to hold all this. I try to judge my pile, my dirt pile, and this pile. If that pile is bigger than my trash pile, it should fit. So, it's kind of what I go by, just guesstimating. Y'all stay tuned, I'll set y'all up and let me bury that sucker. Pushed in there. Time to do a little magic and make this pile disappear. Alright guys, got all that done. Got all the topsoil put back on it. I think that's the easiest way to get rid of brush, trash, whatever. Bury it, be done with it. And it's the cheapest way for the landowner. They won't ever be doing no digging or nothing down here. Out of sight, out of mind. Y'all hang on guys, I'll bring y'all back in a minute. Alright guys, I got one more brush pile for today. He doesn't want to burn it at the moment. So we're gonna dig a big hole. I know y'all just saw me dig a hole, so I won't bore y'all too much, and I'll put you on a time lapse, guys. Let y'all watch me dig this hole and bury this brush pile. Y'all hang on. Alright guys, that finishes this up. That's all my piles covered up.